Does your business need a brand overhaul? That's the question. How can you know? It can be difficult to ascertain because evaluating brand can seem like such an abstract concept for most people and even for most business owners. So how can you tell if it's time to overhaul your brand? Well, there are a few markers, a few symptoms of the problem that you need to look for. The easiest way to tell is by the visuals. If the visuals of your brand look old, then that's a red flag that it may be time to refresh those visuals. Just imagine a high-tech company that is putting itself out there in the world with old-looking 90s style images and typography. It just doesn't match. It creates doubt in the minds of customers, and it just looks outdated. It calls into question whether they really are cutting edge. But even more than the visuals, it's also with the messaging. If there is a lack of clarity in the messaging, that creates confusion in the minds of the audience that you're trying to target. Sometimes the message is simply illegible as a result of bad design or bad writing. These are things that need to be adjusted in order for the message to get across clearly and in order for customers to be able to take the desired action that you want. Ideally is to do business with you. Have you noticed customers struggling to have a connection with your brand? Some declining brand loyalty? Or customers replacing you with a competitor? Well, it's very likely that this is because there has been no emotional connection made with the messaging that reaches that customer and with the brand experience. An overhaul of the brand experience, the branded touch points, and some of the visuals can create a strong emotional connection that will make customers prefer you over your competitors. Another symptom is a lack of market relevance. You could tell this is happening when customers start to think, well, what's the difference between you and this other competitor? That shows a lack of relevance, a lack of distinctness, a lack of differentiation. This can also be as a result of stagnant or unclear brand messaging. It can also be due to an outdated branded experience. So a brand overhaul helps to reposition your brand in order to have greater connection, greater relevance with your target audience. Sometimes the symptom is noticed not outside of the organization with customers, but inside with internal misalignment. In other words, when employees struggle to understand the message and therefore struggle to communicate the message with the target audience. If internal teams are struggling to understand the brand story, the brand's purpose, the brand's vision, and the brand values, well, then clearly they're going to have a hard time, if not are going to be incapable of embodying those said values and that purpose and communicating them to the customers that they're trying to help. So this impacts the external communications. A lack of internal clarity impacts external communications. And so revamping, overhauling the brand and the brand signals can help to make this communication clear internally and externally. One of the clearest markers of a brand that needs an overhaul is declining engagement and declining sales. Now, the assumption is that your product is good. I'm going to assume that it's a good product, because if it's a bad product, then the sales are going to decline because it's a bad product or service. But if the product is good and the service is good, then it could be just a lack of connection with the customer, because you have to remember that you are not the only option for the thing that you offer. You're likely in a competitive market. Other people are offering services that are somewhat similar, if not exactly similar and replaceable, tangentially, where they can use another alternative. So in situations like this, overhauling the brand, perhaps overhauling the marketing materials, the website, other aspects of the branded experience can help to bring a renewed, strong connection with the target audience that increases sales and increases engagement. Perhaps you've been in business for a long time. Well, that in itself can be a reason for a brand overhaul if your audience has started to shift. It's possible that the messaging and the branding that you had at one time was tailored or targeted to a particular audience, but over time, that audience has shifted. And so now it's essentially like using a message that doesn't resonate with the current audience because it's tailored to an older audience, and not older in age, but a past audience that the company has shifted away from. So if this is your case, it's time to adapt. It's time to look at clarifying, redefining what that market is, that new audience, and tailoring a message, tailoring the branded experience, the branding, in order to communicate with them clearly, to make a good emotional connection, and to be able to take care of their needs in the way that they see value. These are a few of the ways that you can tell if your brand is in need of a brand overhaul. It's important to keep this in mind, to keep your brand relevant, to keep it competitive, and ideally ahead of the competition, and to keep the business profitable. You're not just looking for a short-term gain. Ideally, I would hope you're looking to sustain the business over a long period of time. And so it behooves you, it's important to, every few years, look over the branding, look over your brand strategy to make sure that it is still targeted to the audience that it's necessary to target, and make adjustments where necessary. And this is what I help businesses with. I help brands to level up, whether they need an overhaul, whether they need a refresh, or whether they just need to make some adjustments to be able to resonate better, create a strong emotional connection, tell a strong brand story, give a clear message, make that emotional connection, and increase the value that's being given to the audience. That results in increased sales, increased engagement, increased talking about the brand on social media, increased brand advocacy. Thanks for taking the time to join me on this video. Like, follow, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Share with those who may need it. And I will see you on the next video.